I'm so happy I said yes to this invitation, although I was telling Douglas that I really didn't know what I was getting myself into. Yeah, and in a way, I had an intuition that there was something there that was very poignant for me, and there was an opportunity to explore it. But then when I started looking into the 18,000 images and got the instruction to like boil it down to 80 images, it became a deeper dive than I expected. And in the process, as I kind of intuited, there was so much about Corita Kent's like embeddedness in the scene here in LA, and her embodiment of a particular moment in this very potent city that was a total revelation to me, and in a way made me understand even more about the resonances of the Mocha show. So I just wanted to start by playing you something. And so I was thinking about music of the 50s and 60s and sort of start to look into it and put together a selection that I'm going to play. And the first thing I'm going to play is a work by Krzysztof Penderecki, one of my favorite composers. And it's kind of loaded because part of my intuition was about the movie The Exorcist, which maybe it seems like too on point, but I want to try to unpack it because there's some counterintuitive aspects of that film that have kind of possessed me for a long time. Sorry. I'm going to play a little bit of a work called Canon for Orchestra and Tape from 1962. Later became part of the soundtrack for both The Exorcist and for The Shining. I generally want to draw a connection between the work of Sister Corita Kent and the period in which she worked and our present time. And I'm thinking of it both in terms of like the 50s going into the 60s, all the way up to 1968, when she left the Immaculate Heart College, as a kind of watershed moment in which everything culturally, politically, and technologically was extra plastic, as in extra malleable. And in a sense, there was a kind of exhaustion of inherited categories, and therefore a need to sort of reinvent aesthetically and politically and culturally everything for it to reflect what people were experiencing at that time. And so it seems very much like the period we're in now. And I was thinking about Penderecki, one, because he explored many religious themes in his work, and almost exclusively worked with traditional orchestral instrumentation, but played everything in a very strange way, kind of playing everything against the grain, and both harmonically and just technically asking musicians to do things like tap and play these instruments in ways that they weren't originally intended. And it turns out, I was watching a video in which he talks about his work, and it turns out that in the 1950s, when he graduated from school and wrote and performed his first compositions, there was an electronic production studio in Warsaw at the time. And so although he was working with traditional instrumentation, he was extremely influenced by electronic music. And you could hear it in the work. So Corita Kent, her days at the Immaculate Heart Community and College in Los Angeles were from 1953 to 1968. This coincided with a particular moment religiously called Vatican II, or the Second Vatican Council, a moment in which basically the Vatican called for a kind of reinvention of Catholic ritual. Second Vatican Council, I'm just cutting a little piece from Wikipedia, was the 21st and most recent ecumenical council of the Catholic Church, convened by Pope John XXIII from 1962 to 65 to update the Church for the modern world by fostering spiritual renewal, better engaging with other Christians and faiths, and adapting its practices, leading to significant reforms like using vernacular language in the Mass and greater lay participation. So this really set the context for what happened at Immaculate Heart College. And in the slides, which are kind of in a random order, you'll see evidence of Catholic ritual being reinvented on every level, creatively speaking, with Corita Kent eventually running the art school or the art program. Generally, what's inspiring to me is that she really embodied this idea of the classroom being a kind of a laboratory, a speculative laboratory, and in a sense, it's an artist-led experiment in teaching or learning. She staged processions, engaged with all kinds of collage as an exercise, and generally, I think using techniques that I associate with the Situationists, using the city of LA as a kind of like psychogeography, and bringing students to places like Watts Tower and to her own studio, which I think was across the street from the college, but really exploring the landscape and the environment, both physically and in terms of the media landscape as a source of material. And I'm super intrigued. I love the title of the show, The Sorcery of Images. I realized that sorcery refers to source material and the fact that everything became source material. Everything became a kind of found object to be used in a continual détournement, or like a psychogeography of the everyday. So what I'm going to play now are just a few different tracks of electronica that was being made in the 50s and 60s, particularly by women musicians. Yeah, I just want to go back and read a little bit from the book Come Alive, The Spirited Art of Sister Corita by Julie Alt from 2006, describing Immaculate Heart, and in particular, lecture series in the early 60s called Great Men. By the 1960s, the college art department had become legendary, characterized as inspirational not only by Catholics and students, but by illustrious figures, including Buckminster Fuller, who declared, amongst the most fundamentally inspiring experiences of my life have been my visits to the art department at Immaculate Heart College. Charles and Ray Eames, other luminary supporters whom Corita counted as primary influences on her creative process, teaching and art making, opened their house and studio to the sisters and their students annually in the 50s and 60s. Both Fuller and Charles Eames had participated in the Great Men lecture series that longtime art department chair, Sister Magdalene Mary, initiated and which Corita directed for some years. The series included James Eliot, Leonard Stein, John Cage, Alfred Hitchcock, Saul Bass, Herbert Bayer, Jean Renoir, and Virgil Thomson. Today, this list reads like a cultural who's who, but at the time they were fairly accessible. Corita organized the lecture series by simply writing to these people, inviting them to visit and talk about their lives, their thinking and working methods, and engage in Q&A with the students. And you saw some, I think there was a picture of Buckminster Fuller and a couple others. Yeah, a couple of notes. The first slide was of Wonder Bread advertisement, and there's a lot of recurrence of certain products, Hunt's ketchup, oranges, navel oranges, and Wonder Bread. I was really attracted to just the poppiness of them, and at some point, all of these things then appear recontextualized with quotations from the Bible and from other literature, and also from movies and from like Beatles songs, giving them spiritual meaning. There's this curious kind of like combination of consumerism or like spirituality through a filter of consumerism that she's constantly playing with. Nothing was off limits, super playful. The 60s are resonant with today in two ways to me. One is technological, and the other is in terms of religious culture. I think about Walter Benjamin from the work of art in the age of mechanical reproduction, where he says, essentially, every change of the production system brings about a need for a new aesthetics. In Walter Benjamin's day, that was film. In Corita Kent's day, that was video or TV. In our day, it's social media. And this is something that I want to explore a bit further, this connection between the video of the 1960s and the social media regime of today. Meanwhile, religiously, I think also in the title, The Sorcery of Images, is a kind of like esoteric dimension. There's a play on spirituality, whether it be through experimentation with psychedelic drugs or experimentation with non-Western religions. Immaculate Heart had a program to collect folk art from around the world. And I suspect both the kind of idea of folk art representing a kind of democratic culture or like a populist culture, and also a desire to question and to exceed the kind of inherited assumptions of American consumer culture. We're at the heart of this kind of desire to somehow search beyond. There's a dimension of that which is a kind of like naive universalism that is systematic in that time period. But there's also seeds of a kind of like emerging global order. Like this to me feeds this idea of everything becoming very malleable and of kind of inherited traditions, inherited rituals, bonds of society, assumptions, categories of political thought, of cultural and aesthetic thought, all being unstable, and the need to kind of reinvent everything to make it, to keep it alive in a way. Today, I think that there's a strange way in which a kind of collapsing of religion and politics and entertainment actually characterize the moment. And I think you can see that in so many ways. But just to take an example, I find it uncanny and in a way something worth really paying attention to, the degree to which politicians as well as tech bros and billionaires make appeals to Christianity and to a return to the spiritual. One example of that that I find particularly ominous is the case of Peter Thiel and Palantir. Just within the past couple of months, he's been touring to give lectures on the Antichrist. And I found I'm not going to go too deep into it, but it's super weird. He is specifically a student of René Girard, who is a Christian philosopher. Just to say that, like, what he believes the Antichrist is Greta Thunberg. He believes that kind of, a systemic wokeness is sort of preventing the kind of individual will of billionaires like himself from being able to move the world forward. So in a way, Christian patterns can be interpreted in many ways. And it is example to me of the kind of slipperiness and plasticity of inherited traditions in a moment like ours. So to continue.
All colored. All colored. I remember my dreams by the colour they are, the colours that you see in churches, bright blues and yellows and reds, blue and yellow and green, red and green and blue and orange, the colours that you see in churches. Green, yellow, orange.
Grey, like greens.
Red, black, green, black and blue and green. Sometimes it is blue and sometimes it is green.
It's just vivid green.
It's red, kind of a terracotta red. Red, black,
Black and white.
white,
Silver. Glittering silver.
orange, yellow, bluey colour, green colour, white, grey, blue, black, red and blue and green and yellow and orange. Not distinct colour, but merging together to give a blurred, vivid pattern. With a very large stained glass window through which the sun shines. The window takes up the whole of the wall, and bright blues and yellows and reds, the colours that you see in churches. The sun shines through and provides the only light. But what the picture is on the window, I don't know. I just have this knowledge of the colours in it and the sun shining through. All coloured. And the sun shining through. And it was all coloured like the rainbow, as if there was a light shining behind it. The sun shines through and provides the only light, as if there was a light shining behind it. All of a sudden I saw a cloud of spray. The water was coloured with blue and yellow and green, but the colours all merged together like a sheet, the whole sheet, the glowing sheet of colour. The colours not distinct but merging all into one, giving an effect of a rainbow effect. A great spray, a silent spray, rising from the river, and behind it a mass of colour, red and blue and green and yellow and orange, not distinct colour, but merging together to give a blurred, vivid pattern.
I can see green, lush green, green around, green the foreground, green as far as I can see, getting hazier and hazier, and then reaching a blue sky coming up above. That's about the only other colour I can see. There's lush green leaves in front of me, there's browny green down the valleys, there's dust making it not quite as green in different parts, but all around there's just nothing green. I can't see anything else. It's just vivid green.
It's red. It's a very funny red. Red. The heart was red. A very funny red. And it would dip into the water, and there were sort of bluey colours, bluey greeny colours, and it would dip into the water, no reflection in the water, very still, flat. The wetness brings out the colour. It's just a puddle in a gravel drive, and lying quite still, funny leaves, green, yellow, orange. Only two or three, not overlapping, just separate leaves in a small puddle with the gravel around the edge, dark gravel near the edge, and a pale, bluey, harsh gravel where it's dry. It's just a few leaves lying separately, green, yellow, orange, autumn leaves. Not moving, just lying with dark edge where it's wet. Very still, flat, no reflection in the water. The leaves are wet. The wetness brings out the colour. No reflection. It's just like the moon. It's the colour of earth, but the red is kind of a terracotta red. The whole of the surface is red. It's the colour of clay, I suppose. Yes, it's the colour of clay, and the sun has dried the whole of this surface. It's just like the moon.
Everything was black and white and so natural.
Just like the moon. Black, white.
I'm the waiter in a cocktail party. I'm wearing a white jacket and black trousers and black tie. and everybody in the cocktail party is in black suits and black ties, white shirts. All the ladies are in black and white.
Black. White.
Silver. The glasses are silver, glittering silver. There seems to be no colour at all. There is no colour at all. There seems to be no colour at all, as far as I can remember.
You'll start seeing some slides and there was already at least one that I saw of the World's Fair in 1964-65 in Flushing Meadows in New York City, in Queens. Corita Kent was well known enough at that time that despite being considered in relation to Vatican II as having gone too far, generally Immaculate Heart Community and College had gone too far in terms of the reinvention of ritual, and in the eyes of like the archdiocese or like the top of the chain of the Catholic order. But they still invited her to do a mural for the Vatican Pavilion at the World's Fair. And so you'll see some of that. I think during that same trip, I found some images where she's visiting the White House. She's on the streets of New York. And she took many, many photos of the World's Fair and of particular pavilions. One of them was the IBM pavilion. Eventually, she did collaborations for the IBM headquarters. And it was an example of, especially in her later years, of a tendency to take on all possible creative possibilities, including corporate commissions. She designed, a stamp, and like, in a way, it exceeded the kind of definition of art. That's another kind of like form of the plasticity that I find really pertinent to our moment. The border between what's art and what is popular culture, what's design. In a way, it seemed like she didn't care. It was all communication. And she was really fascinated with all forms of communication as it was evolving rapidly at that moment. I wanted to say something about the nature of mediation, and it relates to this idea of a kind of like play between the visible and the invisible, or between like the figure or the object or the individual and the crowd or the background. or the surrounding context or the machine, and the way that they mutually constitute each other. Like the figure of Corita Kent herself is like enigmatic to me because in a way categorically as as somebody who has like decided to devote their life to being a nun, her job was to make herself invisible, to not feature herself, to be of service, to be in the background, and at the same time, because of the role she played and because her mentor, Magdalene, in a way pushed her to become the poster child for Immaculate Heart College, she became a star. So in a way, it's a kind of like, it's a contradictory image. This person devoted to be of service to others and to God, who at the same time becomes the center point of a kind of media circus. Well, my own interest, in a way, as an editor, is how the eye gravitates to the figure and, in a sense, doesn't see what's around the figure. Even though, from an editing point of view, the two parts of the image constitute each other. You can't have a figure without a background. In a way, from an editing perspective, each of these parts is equal in terms of the fabric of the image. And yet the eye is always gravitating towards the thing in the foreground, the thing that's moving, the thing that's meant to be seen as an object. And all of the kind of orchestration around it, in a sense, becomes invisible. And so I have this idea that a nun or a sister like Corita Kent does in being of service is, in a kind of self-effacement, becomes a kind of medium for others, and is an example of what I think of as like a facilitator or a mediator, as opposed to a protagonist, even though she exemplifies the possibility that real agency is a combination of both. What characterizes the protagonist is a condition of relative visibility. That's what identifies them as the protagonist. What characterizes a facilitator or a mediator is a form of agency defined by a form of efficiency that has to do with its relative invisibility. And in a sense, the real sorcery is about being able to move in and out of these categories, to adopt the role of invisibility, of facilitator when needed, and to become the protagonist when that's the more efficient role to play. I have this idea that one of the things that's happening in the 60s is the kind of, not the birth, because it's earlier, but a kind of like popularization of cybernetics. And one way I think about cybernetics is that it has to do with networking, and it has to do with, like, in a way, systems thinking. It's the beginning of systems thinking. The visible part and the invisible part are equally valuable, and they constitute each other. To speak about these things in a way is like something that you can only do metaphorically because of the tendency to only see the object and not see the invisible dimension around it. So to me, this constitutes, like, in a way, in the sorcery of images, an esoteric dimension. This is the World's Fair.
suddenly I'm falling. I'm falling upright.
I think we're gonna stop here and switch to a video.
Yes,
Yes,
I can hear my echo. And the words are coming back on in top of me. The words are spilling out of my head and then returning into my ear. It puts a distance between the words and their apprehension or their comprehension. The words coming back seem slow. They don't seem to have the same forcefulness as when I speak them. I think it's also slowing me down. I think that it makes my thinking slower. I have a double take on myself. I am once removed from myself. I am thinking and hearing and filling up a vocal void. I find that I have trouble making connections between thoughts. I think that the words forming in my mind are somewhat detached from my normal thinking process. I have the feeling that I am not where I am. I feel that this place is removed from reality. Although it is a reality already removed from the normal reality. The words keep tumbling out because I want to hear them. I want to hear my own words pouring back in on top of me. It is
Wilder,
It is
San Luis.
I'm hearing other things
The tenuousness.
coming in on me. There's something else besides my own that I'm hearing. The words become like things. I'm throwing things out into the world, and they are boomeranging back. Boomeranging back. The words bounce and come. Again, I hear an empty space. My voice or the microphone system lost a word or two that I spoke. Oh. Oh, yeah? Sure. Oh.
Can you talk for another 5 minutes? We'll look at it and see what you think.
A 60.
And I'm just gonna finish the rest of this piece, which is from 1974, actually the first live video performance. It happened on public television in San Antonio, Texas, just 1 year after the movie The Exorcist came out.
Am I on? 60 seconds to come back on, which makes me think about the difference between instantaneous time in words and delayed time. Instantaneous time is immediate perception, whereas delayed time is more like a mirror reflection, a mirror reflection. Delayed time puts another. I don't hear my own voice again. I've lost the words. Okay.
It's Richard Serra in the background.
No, but I can't hear my own voice.
You're not changing tape, so you can't hear out of one time. You can talk about that if you want.
Oh.
But you can talk about what's happening.
Okay. Now, here. So now, since they're changing tape, now I think it's starting to work again. But for a while, I heard only my own voice at the time that I was speaking. But now I hear my own voice, slightly delayed, coming back in on top of me, so that I am surrounded by me, and my mind surrounds me. My mind goes out into the world and then comes back inside me. There is no escape. It is a constantly revolving, including experience. Sometimes I find that I can't quite say a word because I hear the first part come back and I forget the second part, or my mind is stimulated in a new direction by the first half of the word. The lights are shining down on me while I am speaking about these things. These lights contribute a rather substanceless reality to this situation. The light in its immateriality is like the sound in its immateriality. The light hits me and reflects off me into the camera. The words leave me and are reflected back into my ear and into your ear. You are hearing and seeing a world of double reflections and refractions. Time in this isolated capsule of television experience is cut off from time as we usually experience it.
last thing you just heard is a performance by a Japanese artist named Aki Onda, who has developed a practice of re-performing works by an ethnomusicologist from the Philippines named Jose Macera, who was active in the 60s and 70s. He actually went to school in Paris studying avant-gardist music production, but then went back to the Philippines and dedicated the latter part of his life to making field recordings and collecting the music of indigenous people in the Philippines. This is during the 60s and 70s, and he eventually melded things together and started creating these performances using traditional instrumentation, but always sort of through a filter of either radio transmission or cassette tapes. He did a famous performance for 100 cassette tapes, so that it would require 100 people. And what you were listening to was a re-performance of the 100 cassette tape performance by Aki Onda just a few years ago. He goes around the world doing these performances, so you'll have you probably will have a chance to experience. He also did a performance in which musicians were spread across locations in the Philippine archipelago, which is made up of several thousand islands. And the idea was that musicians were meant to play wherever they were located and play with traditional instrumentation on a very beautiful visual score that he created. And each musician had a microphone and was broadcasting their instrument on different radio frequencies. So the idea was that if you assembled something like 80 radios and tuned them to all the different channels that the action was being broadcast on, you would hear the whole ensemble. The thing that's amazing about this is that this was happening during martial law, during the Marcos years, when all media throughout the country had been shut down. So total control over media production and reception. So this kind of, on the one hand, ethnomusicological, and on the other hand, technology-filtered performance described a mode that I feel like is in the spirit of the kind of reinvention that Corita Kent was involved in. I was gonna talk a little bit about one of my favorite essays, an essay from 1976 by Rosalind Krauss, one of the first essays to explore video as a medium, then emerging. The title of the essay is Video, the Aesthetics of Narcissism. For one thing, the whole front of the essay has partially to do with a kind of a structuralist notion of the ethics of art making. And the ethics of art making have to do with a purposeful refusal to participate in the illusion of the picture window in favor of revealing the substructure. And the essay is about trying to grapple with this kind of aesthetic, this ethics of image making in relation to the emergence of video, because she tries to submit video to the same structural logic as painting and sculpture, and yet she can't figure out what the substructure is of video. Everything about video is immaterial in a way. It's just light. The device could be, I guess, the substructure, but it's a completely variable thing. The video moves from device to device, and even more so now, so you can't really call that the substructure. And she goes through all the different parts of video and is disturbed ultimately to find that it cannot be kind of subsumed within this ethics of image making. And she concludes, this is just in the beginning of the essay, that the real substructure of video is human psychology, which is just a strange formulation to make. Crucial to this is the distinction between video and film. And what typifies video is the instantaneous feedback loop. Whereas in film, you still have to, edit and develop the film and so forth. With video, there is no lag. As you shoot, you get the instant feedback. And so it's like a mirror. And that's why the aesthetics of narcissism. And she goes on to kind of like, really paint a very negative picture of video. And that to me is less interesting. But this distinction of like characterizing this new emerging medium as defined by the instantaneous feedback loop, to me, is prescient. And in a sense, I think that what she's actually describing before it existed is the algorithm. So in a way, like there's this development from what's happening in the 60s with the emergence of video leading into the digital age 50 years later and playing out now. So now I'd like to play you a scene that I'm kind of obsessed with from the movie The Exorcist. Before you started, while I was looking through the 18,000 slides, I just decided just to kind of give myself something to start from. I picked out everything I could find that had either a reel-to-reel recorder in it, a camera, or a film camera, any kind of machinery of image making, microphones, audio recording. I just started by collecting all of those. For me, I'm very interested in how the image of the reel-to-reel recorder features prominently in the movie The Exorcist. And so what you're hearing is a lead up to a scene where Father Karras, the priest, is going to interview a young girl who appears to be possessed by the devil. And he's going to record her voice. And so he's going to listen first to her normal voice for comparison.
Hello? Wait, no, that's too close. Just here, take it and just don't talk so close to me. Okay. Hello, Daddy? This is me. What should I say? I don't know
Go
what
on,
to
just
say.
talk to your daddy. Anything you want.
All right.
Tell him, what you've been doing and how you're feeling and like that.
Well, you see, I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me okay? Well, let me
He's
see.
not gonna answer you. Go on, talk to your daddy, honey. The kid's fine.
I don't know what to say. Let's see. Well, let's see. First no, wait. I don't know.
Megan, tell him about Washington.
Okay. See, we're in Washington now, Daddy, and
He broke the bread, gave it to his disciples, and said, "Take this, all of you, and eat it. For this is my body." When the supper was ended, he took the cup. Again he gave you thanks and praise. Gave the cup to his disciples and said, "Take this, all of you, and drink from it. This is the cup of my blood. The blood of the new and everlasting covenant, the mystery of faith."
What an excellent day for an exorcism.
You'd like that?
Intensely.
But wouldn't that drive you out of Reagan?
It would bring us together.
You and Reagan?
You and us.
Did you do that? Do it again.
In time.
No, now.
In time. Mirabile dictu, don't you agree?
You speak Latin.
Ego te absolvo.
Quod nomen mihi est.
Bonjour.
Quod nomen mihi est.
La plume de ma tante.
How long are you planning to stay in Reagan?
Until she rots and lies stinking in the earth. What's that?
Holy water.
You keep it away. It burns! Oh, it burns! Yeah, sorry.
Who are you? Who are you?
It's a language, all right. It's English.
What do you mean English?
It's English in reverse. Listen.
Give us time! Let her die! I am no one. I am no one! Fear the priest. Fear the priest. Oh, Baron! Leo, I am no one. Baron, here's a priest.
What interests me in this scene, aside from the kind of religious filter that tells the story of this kind of, what do you call that, like an identity crisis happening, embodied in this little girl, is the role of the tape recorder, which in the third scene, they're giving away how the voice of the devil was produced by taking recordings of human voices and editing them and playing them backward. And this is significant because the Exorcist was awarded only one Academy Award in 1973, and that was for sound design. 1968, the Beatles produced a song that used tape loops for the first time. Tomorrow Never Knows. It was an idea that John Lennon had to create a song that would simulate the experience of being on acid. So he made different recordings of like orchestral instruments and seagulls and other sounds, and played with looping them in reverse. That's in 1968, and then 5 years later, in 1973, I believe The Exorcist is the first movie to use tape loops in this way as well. And so this period of time represents kind of the birth of like studio-produced sound. And there's a shift from like the most accurate recording of a live performance. It's just in this period that you have for the first time sounds being produced electronically that never existed in the real world. So it's a watershed moment technologically. There's a documentary about The Exorcist that includes interviews with viewers in 1973 who went to see the movie and would run out of the theater And in particular, what really freaked people out was the sound of the voice of the devil, among other things. But like, you know, that in particular hit a nerve psychologically. The sound of a human voice modified in a way that's familiar to us now, but like auto-tune didn't exist in 1973. So that's it.